Okay, so it's time. All right, it's time for another episode of Real Raw Recovery. And I'm Joe Tilley, looking over the lake here in Newcastle, Ontario.
I'm Tyler Tilley here in Bangkok,
Yeah, right, Bangkok.
full of Corona.
The heart of Corona. The heart of
Coronavirus.
coronavirus.
Yeah. Not Corona.
Bangkok.
Not Corona the drink.
Not Corona the drink, but Corona the virus.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're not exactly in the heart of it, but it is in that area. So let's open with a moment of silence and the Serenity We prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. So we had a little conversation there on our little family chat about topic that you brought up, and it was the idea being that there was a question. The question proposed.
Well, do you want to give the context of the story?
Okay. Yeah, you can do that better than I can, I think.
Okay, so I just saw a public forum on a news channel on social media. So it was a news channel that posted a story, a news story.
Sure.
And it indicated that a guy who's potentially or indicated that he was trying to stay off of drugs went to his parole officer for quote unquote help for his drug problem or drinking problem.
Yeah.
And the parole officer, based on these headlines, I didn't even get that far in the story, but based on the headlines, the parole officer put the former convict or the convict back in jail. And that's all I got. That was the headline, right?
So he reached out for help and to the parole officer, and the parole officer sent him back to jail.
Yeah, made a judgment call that he needed to go back to jail.
Yeah.
So
but,
then
it was basically he's reached out. Yeah.
Prompted a question in the news article. And in the news article it said, hang on, let me grab that.
I got it here. Do you want me to read it?
Sure.
Addiction is a medical disease which needs to be treated as such, but we're treating it as a behavior problem. So which one is it?
And I wrote both.
Yeah, and I wrote.
That's a little rude.
I wrote, well, yeah. I wrote, it was a little rude that the parole officer would send this guy to jail. That's certainly a little rude. That was rude.
I didn't know that till now. I thought you were talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No. I was talking about the parole officer. Pretty rude behavior. But what I because I couldn't quite read the whole article, but now that after I did read the article, my response was, yeah, it's a medical problem that causes people to have bad behavior. But so I think it's a medical problem. Addiction is a medical problem. It's also a mental health problem, and it's a disease. And it's a disease. Addiction is a disease that causes people to have bad behavior. I mean, there's a lot of people, for example, myself, the way I would look at it, it was like my behavior, at the end of my practicing days was pretty bad. Like I was not the person that I intended myself to be. My behavior was, out of line, and I didn't like who I was, and I didn't like what I did. And the person that, that 13 or 14-year-old that picked up that drink for the first time, would not have wanted to do the stuff that I ended up doing. So, that was because of my addiction that caused me to become the person that I didn't want to be. And, and then in recovery, I get to be the person that I want to be. So that behavior, it was the poor behavior, was, I believe, a direct result of my disease. Now, I guess it's possible that I could have had that behavior anyway, but I don't think so. I think that the reason I acted the way I did is because of my disease.
But that contradicts everything that you stand for.
How do you say that? Why that? Why does that contradict?
What's the saying?
I stand for?
What happens when a drunken horse thief gets sober?
He's still a horse thief.
Right. So how does that play into anything?
So but here's what I'm talking about. Okay, so you know what? Like say that 13 or 14-year-old kid that did drugs or alcohol for the first time, and over time, you end up doing stuff that you would never ever have done, and that's what I'm talking about. That behavior, the kind of stuff that put this guy in jail. I don't know this guy, but I know that if it was me, I wouldn't have done that stuff if I hadn't had this disease of addiction. So, I mean, the stuff that sent him to jail, that bad behavior, was a result. It was as a result of my addiction. And, and I became more of a horse thief because of my addiction. So then in recovery, I get to change, and I stop being a horse thief. And that's what the change is about. So the phrase, what do you get when you sober up a drunken horse thief? You get a horse thief. The meaning being, if you don't change, the meaning behind that is, to me, if I don't change, I'm still going to be that horse thief, and I don't want to be the horse thief anymore. So I have to change. And recovery allows me the opportunity to change. And recovery is all about change. So,
okay, so my take on it is that I agree with you. There's a lot of behavior that you would do that you would never do under if you weren't under
sober conditions.
Yeah. But I also believe there's certain characteristics and behavioral issues that have nothing to do with addiction at all. I don't all just go, oh, that's just because you're an addict or an alcoholic.
Well, yeah, I don't think I should get a free pass.
Well, no, but I also think there's a lot.
If I'm an asshole,
right? But there's a lot of people. I really believe there's people even if they're alcoholics and have and are under the influence, they're not going to do some of the things that I did or that you did. They're just not. Even if they're deranged and completely under the influence and completely spiritually bankrupt, emotionally bankrupt, they're still not going to behave the same way that you or I did or someone else. They're right. Just not, so then that's kind of out the window. So just be
well, no, because there's people that wouldn't do stuff that we did. And there's people that would do stuff way worse than we did. And that's, well, I mean, but then that's a judgment morality call, right? Like, what is worse, what is better? Like, who's better, who's worse? I mean, that's a personal morality call. But, judging,
based on society standards.
Okay, based on society standards, but even that varies so much now. I mean, what we used to consider morally inept is now almost allowable in some ways. So, so I mean, even those mores have changed over time. And so anyway, I think that okay. So what I think what you're saying is that some people are kind of assholes, whether they're addicts or not.
No, in this, like, kind of bringing it back to this guy, so I'm only speculating, but like, if he's dangerous, right? And the parole officer deals with 100 guys like this a week, and he comes in claiming he wants help or whatever, it's like, you know what, man, we can't deal with you. You're a violent offender, and I don't care if you got addiction problems or not. Off you go. You are not in a good spot. Maybe treatment might help you. We don't have a bed, but we do have a jail bed. That's where you need to go right now, so you stay off the streets, because you're a lunatic. You're a fucking lunatic. And it's just like, but we all go, oh, he was trying to get help. He's probably a really good guy. No, he's not. He's not. He's not a good guy. He might be one day. Like all of us will get a chance. Hopefully he gets a shot too. But at the same time,
if he's going to jail, he's not getting a shot though, is he?
Yeah, he's gonna get. Hopefully he won't be able to get. Maybe he'll get to a prison where he doesn't have access to alcohol or drugs.
But what if he doesn't? So then he's not getting a chance, and you're denying him a chance.
Yeah, but I think what I'm kind of like, I'm only playing a scenario. Like, I'm just alluding that if he's a violent guy, I don't put him in jail. We can't, like.
But I'm just telling you that I think a lot of people are violent people, have become violent people as a result of their addiction, and they weren't violent people before.
I don't.
And I think that's what happens. I think somebody, if I need to get the drugs that I need, I'll do anything to get it. Whether it be selling my body or robbing a store or, getting a gun to rob people, whatever. And part of my deal is I want to get away. So maybe I have to do a violent act to get away. I mean, that's what, that's where, addiction takes people.
See, and that's kind of where, like, I consider that the portion of the horse thief.
So how are you gonna get the drugs that you want without being a criminal? I want to be a nice addict who only gets my drugs in a nice fashion.
And that's what I'm saying. Who
the hell is that? Who's that? Who's that one person?
I would say that's half the people in the program, and then the other half are violent.
Right. Well, I don't know. I think that I'll get whatever I need, and I'll do whatever I need to get it. And I'll become a person that's nothing like the person that I started out being, because I need what I need, and I'll do what I have to do to get it.
So my personal story is the opposite of that. My personal story was I was a violent person. I was a ticking time bomb. And when you add drugs and alcohol to that mix, it's like adding gasoline to a brush fire. I think I've said that in front of a podium 40 times.
Right. So there, in your case, right? So you think that you were in a bad way to start with, and then when you added alcohol and drugs to it, you were in worse case than before, right?
Right.
And I guess probably in to some degree, I would probably say that I was the same way. Maybe I wouldn't consider myself necessarily violent, but I would consider myself selfish and manipulative, and and when I added alcohol to the equation, I became worse, no doubt about it. But so anyway, the point is that when we get a chance to find a program of recovery, we get a chance to recover, we get a chance to get better, we get a chance to change. And I believe everybody has the ability to change. I think everybody has the ability to change. Maybe not. I mean, there might be 1 or 2% of the population that just is incorrigible and damaged so badly that they can't possibly change. That is possible. So maybe that small portion of the population, they have to be locked up for the benefit of society and, you know, whatever. But I think a large number of those people that seem violent and seem incorrigible can change. And I mean, you and I, we've heard many stories, right, at the meetings of people who were in a terrible, terrible, violent, horrible way that are now like people that would give you the shirt out their backs, people that would do anything for anybody, you know, and that's what the change and recovery is all about. And I think, you know, the vast majority of people who have, you know, had that previously violent life, they can change. And I think if you send a guy to jail instead of sending him to treatment, you're denying him the opportunity to change. So that's why I think it's a little rude.
Okay, I know. So I'm not debating whether recovery can help you change. My point is that, is it a behavioral problem or a medical disease? And I said both.
Yeah, and I said it's a medical problem that causes bad behavior. And I think I'm right as well. Because it's just, I think in that case, it's just maybe a matter of semantics, right? We might be saying the same thing in a different way. And yeah, so it's too bad that the guy was sent away to jail by the parole officer. And my first thought is, who is the parole officer to determine whether this guy can be helped through treatment or he needs to go to jail? I mean, I don't know. I would think that would be a decision that you'd have to make, you know, with the help of, you know, psychiatrists, psychologists, whatever. A determination made by maybe a panel of people as opposed to one person saying, "No, you go to jail, bye-bye." You know, who is this parole officer to determine that this person should go to jail, not treatment? And that's a little rude, in my humble estimation. Right?
I don't know.
Okay, I think I just dropped the mic.
No, because maybe he needs to hit bottom and know that it's just not going to be like, oh, I don't want to go to jail. I want to go to treatment. I have a problem.
Well, yeah, but don't you think that's real? I mean, yeah, I hear you, because that could be it. Maybe I think we all have to hit bottom, whatever that looks like. And maybe this last trip to prison or whatever is just the kind of bottom this person needs. And so maybe the parole officer in this particular instance has made the correct determination and realized that rather than enabling this person needs to hit him more of a bottom. And maybe that's the case. We don't know that. But is that one person, that parole officer, the right person to make that determination? But I guess that's what parole officers are. That's their job, right?
That's what I was kind of leaning towards. Is like I just was looking at it from just both standpoints. Is like, yes, do you want to see a guy who's reaching out for help go to a treatment center? Sure. And then I'm looking at it like, and that's how the article reads, as if everyone should feel sorry for this guy because the parole officer sent him to jail instead of prison. And I just thought, well, let's take the other stance that's against the grain, against everyone going, oh, how dare he send him to prison, versus like, well, maybe this guy's a fucking scumbag and he deserves only thing but prison. Like, no one, like, we just so quick to judge and like start going, oh, well, who is that parole officer? Should he have his credentials reassessed perhaps?
Yeah, but again, you say we're quick to judge, but then you said maybe this guy's an effing scumbag. I mean, that's kind of a pretty serious judgment anyway. I would hate to think that I don't want to believe that anybody's an effing scumbag. I want to believe that some people do some pretty crappy things, but to write them off as an effing scumbag is not fair. I mean, I think some people might have called me an effing scumbag if they looked at my behavior, right?
And were you not?
And, yeah, well, you know what? I don't know, I would think that I was sick, a person who was sick.
Oh.
Instead of looking at myself as an effing scumbag, I look at myself as somebody who's sick. And when I started looking at myself as somebody who is sick and not an effing scumbag, I was able to have a little more, you know, better perspective of myself anyway.
Well, I can certainly know that there was times where I was an effing scumbag.
Well, it seemed that way. But to just write somebody off as an effing scumbag, you know, I don't know. I don't think I have the ability to do that fairly.
No, it's just the opposite approach.
Fairly.
I'm just taking the opposite stance of how everybody was responding to that article.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, like, if we meet somewhere down the middle, I would imagine that the parole officer made a judgment call that this guy's a harm to society, and he needs to go away until there's some major changes that are made. Hopefully, he enlists himself into a treatment center and gets a bed at some point. That's going to fall on his shoulders. In the meantime, you cannot roam the streets and affect society in a negative manner.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I can see that, and I can see that point, and so yeah. So it makes I agree with you. Like I said, I think it's part of it's semantics and the way we're looking at it. I think everybody should have the opportunity to recover, but I think we all, as individuals, we all have to come to a place where we reach a bottom, where we're willing to do what it really do what it takes to find that place of recovery. You know, whether we're ready to do the work, whatever it takes to recover and to abstain and everything else. So, you know, if we haven't reached our own personal bottom, we're not going to do what it takes. It's just as simple as that. We're going to continue to try to manipulate and not change. So yes, I see where you're coming from.
My final thought on this is I kind of don't like the way that like the story is laid out. I feel like there's something that irks me about it. There's something that it's like the more that we start tinkering with giving people these passes of mental health, and so that all of a sudden we'll just allow people on the street when we have like laws in place. I don't think we should get like there's a couple levels to it, right? Like I just get a little worried when everyone immediately, like if you read that feed, is everyone's on the side of this convict. And that's the way it's presented by the news outlet. And then I also will give some credit, like, so what is it? Is it a behavioral problem or is it a disease? Like, here's the discussion. And so
but the discussion is now going to how do we deal with a person who is a threat to society, perhaps, right? And if the person is a threat to society, we have to protect individual rights, but we also have to protect the rights of those in society who are affected by this guy. So, I mean, we have to, look at if society didn't allow us a chance to change and get better, they'd just lock up everybody who's an addict and alcoholic. That's it. Bye-bye. Right? But you and I know that many, many, many of us people who are alcoholics and addicts are able to change, recover, and become some of the finest people in our society. So if we didn't have that opportunity in the first place, where the hell would we be? Where the hell would society be? If you just put everybody who is an alcoholic and addict into a freaking nut house, which is what they used to do.
But see, okay,
And
right.
right?
I hear you, but I also think they're not going to just, if you break the law, they put you in jail. They don't put you in jail because you're an addict.
Yeah, but look at the way addiction is now, like say 2020 versus 1930. All right, the drugs that are available today, the stuff that people do, the big drug companies distributing drugs. I mean, this is a different world that we live in today, and people are getting really effed up all over the place in a different way than they were before. And it's a plague, man. It's a bigger problem than it's ever been, I believe, ever. And if we start locking up everybody because they're messed up, we're just going to have to build bigger jails. And all these people, I mean, that's all we're going to be. I mean, I think instead of building bigger jails, we should be building bigger and more treatment centers, giving people an opportunity to recover from this freaking plague that is worldwide and on so many levels, and partly pushed by drug companies and whatever, doctors and everything. It's horrible. Like, I mean, it's crazy. So it's time to start like focusing more attention on the recovery of these people, and not to try to just, because otherwise just build bigger jails and throw everybody in jails, build bigger nut houses, throw everybody in nut houses. Eventually you're going to, like, 75% of the population is going to have to be put away.
But I thought only 10% are addicts.
Well, I think it's more than that now. I think there's people that are on everything. There's people that are on, addictive sleeping medications. There's people that are addictive depression drugs. So there's the people on all kinds of different things, and it's growing and it's massive, and like I don't think 10% of the population is addicted anymore. I think it's greater than that, and it's growing.
No, I agree with you. There might be a much bigger.
So it's greater than that, and it's growing. So what are you just going to do? Just keep building bigger jails, more jails, and keep locking more people up, and not allowing people a chance to recover? Well, that's a hell of a place, that world, right? And I just make a determination that they're all bad people because they do bad things. Bullshit. They're sick people. That's why they do bad things. And they have to do bad things because their addiction forces them to do that. So there you go. All right. Ready to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty. So I don't know, maybe next time we can continue on or pick it up or look at a different angle of that.
Yeah, because I'm think sometimes the more I open my mouth, the more confused I am. So I'm trying to figure out what am I trying to say, and what's my main point versus just trying to rile you up.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped talking, because I'm not sure anymore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, what is the answer, right? But there's nothing clear cut.
But for example, like, Dad, like, for example, there was this story in the news as well recently, right? and
Yeah.
it turns out to be like a, but it touched everyone like on social media. It was a kid with dwarfism, right?
Oh yeah, they got bullied.
Yeah, and he wanted to put a gun in his mouth or a rope around or a knife in his own belly.
Yeah.
And that's what he told his mom, and his mom recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
And now the kid's running out with I don't know where he's from, but like with the rugby team, the national rugby team, and he's raised over $400,000 to go to Disneyland, and another dwarf comic named Brad Williams has befriended him, and it's turned out to be like quite a nice blessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point is that there's certain kind of people in this world, and there's people with behavioral problems, and those people with behavioral problems are the ones that want this dwarf kid to kill himself at school. And then there's kids at school that want nothing to do with that. Then there's kids at school that are ambivalent, and then there's kids at school that are like protectors and will bully the bullies or sorry, stand up against the bullies, right? Those are the kinds of people in this world. It's kind of like a microcosm for how this world works. And then when you add addiction to certain people, it gets fucking haywire way more than other people, even if they have.
Yeah, but you know, but that's what recovery is about, right? Because recovery allowed me to be the best person I can be. It allowed me to be a better person than the person who was there before I even drank. I'm a better person today than I was before I ever picked up alcohol. And that's what recovery is, right? Gives me that opportunity to be the best person I can be. And so why would we want to deny that opportunity to anybody? You know, like I think that those bullies can be better people. Unfortunately, but I think everybody has to hit a bottom of some kind, right? Everybody has to come to that point where they, you know, it's just too easy for a doctor to prescribe something to make you so you don't feel, when really what we need to do is feel. You know, we don't have to be afraid of our feelings. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have fear, you know, but a lot of people don't understand that. They don't realize that because, you know, if they say, doctor, I'm afraid. Well, here, take this. Instead of, doctor, I'm afraid. Well, okay, feel the fear. Where are you feeling the fear? How does that feel? What's that all about? You know, where do you feel that in your body? What is your fear all about? Can you trace that fear? You know? Are you a little, when you feel your fear, are you a little child? What are you? Like, where you're feeling? Where's it originating from?
No, I know, but you keep missing kind of my point, and that's where I get confused. I agree with you. Like, well, that sounds beautiful. It sounds great. It sounds healthy. Sounds smart. Sounds very therapeutic, that kind of rationale. I'm saying to you, I'm pointing out the behavioral problems well before the addiction, or if there is an addiction.
Yeah, but I had behavioral problems before my addiction, which I believe I don't have anymore, because my recovery has allowed me to be a person that is better than the person that was there before the addiction.
Yes, you've changed. You've changed your behavior.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So I think everybody should have that opportunity. Instead of sending a guy to prison, give him that opportunity. But again, you made a good point, because maybe he needs to reach that bottom. You know, maybe he needs to be put away for a while so he can have a real bottom. I mean, maybe, you know, that's what that parole officer did, is made a judgment call based on something bigger, and maybe that's right. And to me, it's like, if he ended up back in prison, maybe it's because he had to be there. And because that's the bottom he needed. Who knows? So anyway, we can continue.
All right.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. I love you, son.
Love you too.
Okay, bye.
Night, huh?